Have you ever had that unsettling feeling that you are trapped in a play, but you don't know your lines? The same arguments, the same frustrations, the same quiet disappointments. It happens with your partner, your family, your friends. Different faces, but the same exhausting dance. What if I told you that the script you've been following was written long ago by a part of yourself you don't even know exists? The great psychologist Carl Jung uncovered a profound and difficult truth about human connection. He taught that our relationships are not a meeting of two people. They are a meeting of four or more. You and your shadow, them and theirs. And it is often the shadows, the disowned, unconscious parts of ourselves that are running the show. They are the hidden saboteurs, the invisible puppet masters, pulling the strings of attraction and conflict. In our time together today, we will bring these hidden dynamics into the light. First, we will unmask the two primary ways your shadow sabotages your connections: projection and repetition. Then, we will explore why you might be unconsciously attracting the very people who trigger your deepest wounds. And most importantly, I will guide you through the first practical shadow work steps to begin breaking these painful cycles and reclaiming your power to create authentic, conscious relationships. This is not about blaming yourself or anyone else. It is about waking up from the play. It's about finally taking the pen and writing a new scene. To begin this courageous work, make a quiet declaration. Write in the comments below, "I am ready to break the pattern."
The script is not random. The dance is not new. The feeling that you are repeating a painful pattern in your relationships is not a feeling. It is a fact. It is the invisible hand of your shadow, reaching across time, trying to resolve a story that was never finished. To understand how the shadow operates, we must first grasp a fundamental truth of the psyche. The unconscious does not speak in words. It speaks in patterns. It speaks in symbols. And it speaks most loudly through the people we choose to love. Your relationships are a theater where your shadow attempts to act out its unfinished business. It does this in two primary, powerful ways. The first, and most common, is what Carl Jung called projection. Projection is the unconscious act of attributing a part of your own shadow onto another person. It is an emotional outsourcing. We take a quality, a feeling, or a belief that we cannot or will not own in ourselves, and we hang it on the person closest to us, like a coat on a hook. The hook has to be there. They have to have a small amount of that quality for the projection to stick. But the size and intensity of the coat is entirely ours. Why do we do this? Because it is often less painful to see a flaw in someone else than to face it in ourselves. It is easier to be angry at your partner for being controlling than to acknowledge your own terrifying, disowned fear of chaos. It is easier to judge a friend for being needy than to sit with the aching loneliness of your own unmet childhood needs. Let's meet David. He is a 40-year-old architect, a man who prides himself on his logic, his strength, his composure. He was raised with the implicit message that boys don't cry. His vulnerability, his sadness, his need for comfort, all of these were exiled to his shadow. He is married to Sarah, a warm, expressive woman who was not afraid to show her emotions. And David is constantly privately irritated by her. When she cries during a sad movie, he feels a surge of impatience. He thinks, why is she so overly emotional? When she expresses anxiety about a work project, he quickly jumps to solutions. He thinks she just needs to be more logical about this. What David doesn't realize is that he is not truly seeing Sarah. He is seeing a screen, and on that screen he is projecting his own disowned vulnerability. Her tears trigger his own repressed sadness. Her anxiety touches his own deep, unacknowledged fears. Because he cannot hold these feelings in himself, he judges them harshly in her. The conflict is not between David and Sarah. The conflict is between David and his own shadow. Their relationship has become the unwilling stage for his internal war. This is the first way the shadow sabotages connection. It prevents us from ever truly seeing the person in front of us. We are simply arguing with our own reflection in a distorted mirror. The second way the shadow operates is even deeper and more insidious. It is the repetition of the original wound. The psyche has a powerful, innate drive toward wholeness, toward healing. And in a strange, paradoxical way, it will often try to heal an old wound by recreating the very conditions that caused it. It is as if the inner child is saying, let's try this scene again. Maybe this time I can get the love I never received. Maybe this time I can fix it. This brings us to Emily, our 38-year-old designer. The pattern of her attracting and trying to save unstable men. Where does this come from? Through her own courageous shadow work, Emily discovered a painful memory. As a little girl, her father struggled with his own demons. He was brilliant and loving one moment, and distant and depressed the next. The little girl learned a powerful equation for survival. When Daddy is happy, I am safe and loved. When Daddy is sad, I am abandoned. So she became a little caretaker. She would draw him pictures, tell him jokes, do anything she could to make him smile. Her sense of worth became tied to her ability to fix his sadness. Of course, she couldn't fix him. She was just a child. So the story was left unfinished, with a deep, unconscious belief lodged in her shadow. If I can just be good enough, helpful enough, loving enough, I can save him, and then I will be truly worthy of love. Now, as an adult, her shadow is still trying to finish that story. It is not consciously choosing these men. Her unconscious is scanning the room for a familiar energy. It is looking for a man who carries a wound similar to her father's. A man with great potential, but who is struggling. A man who needs her. And the dance begins again. She pours her energy into him. She supports him, encourages him, tries to heal his wounds. She is not just loving a partner. She is subconsciously trying to save her father. She is trying to prove to the little girl inside her that she is, finally, good enough. But the pattern always ends the same way. She ends up exhausted, resentful, and feeling like a failure. Because you cannot save another person, and you cannot heal a childhood wound through an adult relationship. The wound must be healed within. This is the shadow's tragic sabotage. In its desperate attempt to heal the past, it keeps us trapped within it. It is a cage built not of malice, but of hope. A misguided, heartbreaking hope that this time the ending will be different.
How do you know when your shadow is in the driver's seat? The signs are often subtle, but they are unmistakable once you learn the language. Your shadow speaks through three primary channels in your relationships: disproportionate reactions, recurring patterns, and deep visceral triggers. A disproportionate reaction is an emotional explosion that is far greater than the situation warrants. Your partner makes a mild, offhand comment about being tired, and you erupt in a volcano of rage, accusing them of being ungrateful for all you do. A friend cancels plans at the last minute, and you spiral into a vortex of despair, feeling a sense of abandonment that is crushing and absolute. This is a telltale sign that the present moment has activated a past wound. Your partner's comment wasn't just about being tired. It unconsciously hooked into your deep shadow belief of, "I am not seen. My efforts are invisible," a belief likely formed in your childhood. Your friend's cancellation wasn't just an inconvenience. It scraped against the raw, unhealed nerve of a time when you truly were abandoned. The reaction is not about the person in front of you. It is a ghost from your past screaming through the vessel of your present. Recognizing this is the beginning of reclaiming your power. Recurring patterns are the relational deja vu we spoke of earlier. It's not just about attracting the same type of person. It's about finding yourself in the same emotional cul-de-sac over and over again. You always find yourself as the pursuer in the relationship, chasing a partner who is emotionally distant. Or you are always the one who ends things first, terrified of being left. Or, like Emily, you are always the caretaker, drawn to people who need fixing. These patterns are not your destiny. They are your homework. They are the universe, through your unconscious, presenting you with the same lesson in different packaging until you are finally ready to learn it. The pattern is a map that leads directly to your core wound, to the part of your shadow that is most desperate for healing and integration. And finally, there are the triggers. A trigger is different from just being annoyed. It is a specific word, tone of voice, or behavior in another person that ignites an immediate, almost chemical negative reaction in you. For one person, it might be the feeling of being ignored. For another, the sense of being controlled. For a third, a tone of voice that sounds condescending. These triggers are sacred clues. They are breadcrumbs leading you back to the origin point of your pain. The person or situation that is triggering you is not the cause of your pain. They are simply the alarm that is alerting you to a fire that has been smoldering inside you for a very long time. So, how do we begin this courageous work of unmasking and integration? It starts with a radical shift from blame to curiosity. It begins with two powerful shadow work practices designed to bring these unconscious dynamics into the light. The first practice is the trigger inventory. This week, I invite you to become a compassionate detective of your own emotional world. When you feel that hot surge of a trigger, that disproportionate reaction, do not act, do not lash out. If you can, take a breath. Step away for a moment, and in your journal or a note on your phone, write down the answers to 3 questions. Number 1, what was the specific trigger? Be precise. Was it the word they used, their tone, the look on their face? Number 2, what was the immediate story I told myself about it? For example, the story is, "They don't respect me." Or the story is, "I'm going to be abandoned." And number 3, the most important question, where have I felt this exact feeling before in my life? Let that question sit with you. Allow your memory to drift. Often you will find the thread of that feeling leads you back to a classroom, back to a dinner table, back to a moment with a parent or a sibling. You are not doing this to blame the past. You are doing this to understand the present.
You are beginning to separate the ghost from the person standing in front of you. This is the first step in withdrawing your projections. The second practice is the repetition revelation. This is for uncovering the deeper recurring patterns. Sit with your journal and reflect on your relationship history, not just romantic, but friendships and even professional dynamics. Ask yourself these questions. What is the role I most often find myself playing? Am I the caretaker, the victim, the hero, the peacemaker? What is the common emotional outcome? Do my relationships often end in resentment, betrayal, exhaustion? What is the hidden belief about love and connection that this pattern is trying to confirm? Let's go back to Emily, our caretaker. As she does this exercise, she realizes the role she always plays is the rescuer. The common emotional outcome is always exhaustion and resentment. And the hidden belief the pattern is trying to confirm is a painful one. I am only lovable when I am fixing someone. My worth is in my utility. This revelation is heartbreaking, but it is also profoundly liberating, because for the first time she sees the pattern not as a series of unlucky choices, but as the logical outcome of a single, powerful, unconscious belief. She sees the script, and if you can see the script, you can begin to rewrite it. This is not about finding better people. It is about becoming a more whole person, a person who no longer needs others to validate the parts of their shadow they have not yet learned to love themselves.
To see the script is the beginning of freedom, because once you can see the strings of the puppet, you're no longer the puppet. You are the observer. And from the quiet, powerful seat of the observer, you can begin to make new choices. The work of breaking these cycles is not about confronting the other person. It is not about demanding that they change. That is the old way. That is the way of the ego, which believes that control lies outside of ourselves. The Jungian path, the path of shadow integration, is far more subtle and infinitely more powerful. It is the path of changing the dance by changing your own steps. The first courageous step is the practice of withdrawing your projections. This requires a profound level of self-awareness and humility. Let's go back to David, the architect who is constantly irritated by his wife Sarah's overly emotional nature. He has done the trigger inventory. He has traced his impatience with her tears back to his own childhood, to the moments his own sadness was shamed into silence. He has had a revelation. His irritation is not about her. It is about his own disowned vulnerability. So the next time Sarah comes to him upset about something, David makes a new choice. Instead of his old pattern, which was to immediately try and fix her feelings with logic, he pauses. He takes a breath. He recognizes the familiar surge of impatience rising within him. But this time, he does not project it onto her. He holds it. He owns it as his. And he says to himself, "This discomfort I feel, this is my own shadow. This is my own unhealed sadness being activated." Then, from this new place of awareness, he turns to his wife. And instead of offering a solution, he offers something far more healing. He offers presence. He might say simply, "That sounds incredibly difficult. I'm here. Tell me more." Do you feel the tectonic shift in that moment? He has not fixed Sarah. He has created a safe space for her. And in doing so, he has also created a safe space within himself to gently be with his own disowned feelings. By withdrawing his projection, he has opened the door for true connection.
This is not easy. At first, it will feel like swallowing fire. You are taking back the emotional energy you have been outsourcing for years. But with practice, it becomes a source of incredible peace. You realize how much energy you were wasting fighting a battle that was never about the other person in the first place. The second step is the practice of healing the core wound internally. This is for breaking the repetition of the pattern. Let's return to Emily, the designer trapped in the role of the rescuer. She has had her repetition revelation. She sees that her pattern of attracting men who need saving is a subconscious attempt to heal her childhood wound with her father. She understands that she cannot get from a partner what she never got from her parent. The healing must come from within. So she embarks on a radical act of self-parenting. She begins to give herself the validation she has been desperately seeking from others. When she accomplishes something at work, she doesn't wait for someone else's praise. She pauses, puts a hand on her own heart, and says, "I see you. I am so proud of the work you did." When she feels lonely, instead of immediately reaching for her phone to try and fix the feeling by connecting with a man, she sits with the loneliness. She visualizes the little girl inside her, the one who felt abandoned, and she speaks to her. "I know you're scared," she might say. "I know you feel alone. But I am here now. I am not going anywhere. You are safe with me." This is deep, powerful, transformative work. She is rewiring her own nervous system. She is teaching herself on a cellular level that her worth is not conditional. It is not tied to her utility. It is inherent. And a funny thing begins to happen. As she stops needing to be the rescuer to feel worthy, she stops being attracted to men who need to be rescued. The energy of the dance has changed. The old pattern loses its magnetic pull. She begins to attract men who are not looking for a caretaker, but for an equal, a partner. She did not change the world. She changed herself. And in doing so, the world around her reconfigured itself to match her newfound wholeness. This is the promise of doing this shadow work in your relationships. It is not a guarantee that every relationship will be saved. Sometimes when you change your steps, your partner may not choose to learn the new dance. And that can be a painful, necessary parting. But the ultimate promise is this: you will no longer be a puppet to your past. You will stop participating in dramas that drain your soul. You will build a foundation of self-love and self-awareness so solid that the only people who can meet you there are those who are also committed to their own conscious journey. You begin to create relationships that are not based on trauma bonds, but on the resonant frequency of two whole, authentic souls.
Today, we have dared to look into the tangled, hidden wiring of our hearts. We began by acknowledging the unsettling feeling of being trapped in a relational deja vu, a play scripted by an invisible author. We unmasked this author as the shadow, the unconscious parts of ourselves that reach out from the past to shape our present. We then journeyed into the two primary mechanisms of this sabotage. We explored projection, the act of seeing our own disowned parts in others, and repetition, the tragic, unconscious dance of trying to heal an old wound by recreating it. Through the stories of David and Emily, we saw how these dynamics poison connection and keep us locked in painful cycles. And most importantly, we were given the keys to begin our liberation. Through the practical shadow work of the trigger inventory and the repetition revelation, we learned how to shift from blame to curiosity. We discovered the transformative power of withdrawing our projections and the sacred act of healing our own core wounds from within. The path to conscious, authentic relationships is the ultimate frontier of inner work. It is not for the faint of heart. It requires you to take radical responsibility for your own emotional reality. It asks you to stop looking for a savior and to become your own. To stop searching for a perfect partner and to focus on becoming a whole person. As you begin this courageous work, you will notice a profound shift. The dramas will quiet down. The triggers will lose their explosive power. You will begin to see the people in your life more clearly, perhaps for the first time. You will see their humanity, their wounds, and their own shadows with a compassion that was previously unavailable to you, because you are learning to hold your own shadow with that same compassion. But as you clear away the noise of projection and repetition, one particularly stubborn, sticky emotion may remain, an emotion that can poison the well of even the most loving connection, an emotion that often masquerades as righteousness, but is in fact a powerful signal from your shadow. That emotion is resentment. What is that bitter feeling of injustice really trying to tell you? Why does it linger, sometimes for years, eating away at your peace? And how is it pointing directly to a part of your own power that you have refused to claim? That is the deep, essential territory we will explore in our next conversation as we uncover why resentment reveals your unclaimed shadow. For now, your invitation is to take the first step towards conscious connection, to begin the sacred work of seeing your own script. In the comments below, I invite you to share one insight, one revelation you had today about a pattern in your own relationships. You do not need to share details or names. Simply acknowledge the pattern you are now choosing to see. For example, I see my pattern of seeking validation, or I see my pattern of projecting my fear. By naming the shadow, you take away its power. You bring it into the light, and you create a space for a new story to be written. Thank you for your courage to love consciously. The healing begins within.